Hello everybody, welcome to my oil painting class. And today we're again exploring the work by Irina Yermolova, Ukrainian artist, who's famous for her living artist, fantastic live drawings with oils. And what I wanted to introduce today, we were painting a still life last week with you. I wanted to use similar technique, but now in a figure drawing. Figure painting, and how we can loosely find shapes and tones and kind of those comparisons, how the composition of those shapes becomes a figure. Okay, so I have a small number of colors today. I have three warm colors. I have ochre, crimson, and violet. And I've got two cool colors. I've got bluey gray and I have ultramarine. We can always make a bluey gray. If you don't have it, we can just mix white, ultramarine, and a bit of Payne's gray, and that will be our bluey gray. But that is a very handy volume of color to have. Now, and obviously I've got some white, I've got some Payne's gray. If you don't have Payne's gray, any black will be fine as well. Kind of bluey black, and that's what Payne's gray is. Now I want to also a little bit pay attention to my brushes today, just to explain what we'll be doing with them. Now I always have a round synthetic brush to sketch things, to plan things. That's quite nice and flexible brush to do that. I have two very small brushes. That will be almost for my end finishing touches for the painting, where I'll be using some of the line. Okay, so I've got one for darks, and I've got some tiny highlights, almost like little pastel touches of line. So one's going to be for light, one's going to be for darks. I've got two medium brushes, filbert brushes. That's probably again for the body, for parts of the hair, to apply some of the maybe some of the color underneath of the big strokes. The two big brushes, I'll try one or the other, or maybe both, for some of the large application of color, big surfaces. So if I were to use a smaller brush for that, it will become too patchy and to become too full of details. So big strokes with a flat brush might be better. So one brush is a bit soft, so I'll try that one. Or I've got another one, a hog brush. So sometimes thicker strokes with a hog brush are easier to create. Okay. And I also have a flat synthetic brush, which is a very soft one, to the surface as well. So that's another something we'll try out. So those are my brushes through here. Right, so I have some linseed oil here. I have some turbs in the next tub. So that just to give me an idea of, where I'm, not to give me an idea, sorry. This is for washing mainly my brushes, and this is for painting. So what I thought we'll do today, I want us to explore the color we can see on the painting altogether, and combinations, overlaps of the colors, and also probably have a approach, how do we paint the background and the figure at the same time. So we don't paint, this is the background, this is the figure. We paint as a whole piece together, okay, and finalize nuances and details at the end. So I have a similar color board here for me to practice the color application and color combinations. And I thought maybe at the bottom here, so I've got a white piece of paper, I've got a ochre one, perhaps to have that very basic practice, how to paint the figure and the background at the same time before we actually get going on our piece, because it's reasonably quick painting, but it's that planning and that approach, testing it out, or doing, that larger size format a number of times to get it right, or smudging it and getting back to it. That's very important, because there are loads of accidental, very spontaneous effects and important things come through certain silhouettes of the figure and the structure of the body and the light and direction of how our view, kind of how composition is developing, is all depends on that. So we have to work on it all together, but at the same time it's very sketchy. Okay, so you need to be quick. You might end up with your own version of it as usual, and that's okay. It's nice and fluent. Right, enough talking. Let's get going with a bit of experimenting of painting. So first of all, I want to try some of the colors. I'm going to use my thinner brush and probably just a little bit of turbs just to see how the colors will just blend. I want to test my colors, how they will be going on top of my already pre-painted surface. I used ochre, a dab of violet I think I had in my tub, just to make my ochre less yellowy, and some white. So if I were to paint just fresh ochre on top, that makes it very yellowy. And I'm using a very transparent layer here. Okay, I just want us to test what our color is going to look like. Okay, let's just wipe this one off. And let's try again, very runny crimson. Let's see how crimson, a very runny way, could come in. Okay, or if it would be painted a bit more solidly. And then we introduce some oil to it and just let it settle. Last week when we were introducing some extra oil, it was creating some exciting textures. Okay, it's ready to run. I might just catch that. Okay, so I want to see those qualities developing. I want to see that transparency. Okay. I also want to see what the violet will look like on my surface. Now, if you don't have your similar color background, it's okay. Just paint maybe on the piece of paper or just watch me. Okay. Again, there's just exciting transparent qualities to it. And then I want to see how, if I were to mix my violet and crimson together, because that's probably the color we can see on our background. So if it looks on a white surface quite pinkish, okay, so I'm mixing it on my palette here. Yeah, it's quite magenta-ish. So the moment I put it on my ochre background, it becomes much more semi-browny. Yeah, much more exciting surface color-wise. Okay, and I can see those colors for part of the background on our painting, part of the body of the model. So we've got that lovely reds in color. Okay. Another color we've got, right, if I'll just clean my brush here, is our cool colors. Right, so I just need to get rid of all my red here. So let's try some ultramarine. Okay, and let's just place a bit of ultramarine here. Now, on its own, against the gray, it started to look, sorry, against the ochre, it started to look a little bit more grayish. But that ultramarine will mainly start mixing with a little bit of white or bluey gray. So if I use a little bit of bluey gray here with extra ultramarine. Okay, so it's becoming less transparent. Well, it's not transparent anymore. it's opaque. I think I've got a bristle here. Okay, so that becomes much more opaque. So in comparison to transformations of the colors when they're going over the ochre in comparison to the white, the opaque color stays more or less as it is, as if we would have mixed it on a white palette. So a little bit more extra white here. Just want to see the interaction of it. Okay, so I think some of my grays might need to have more Payne's gray in it. Okay, so let's try a dab of Payne's gray with some white, or just with bluey gray and ultramarine. Okay, maybe a tiny bit more lighter. That's where the white comes in. Okay, that's better. Now, and if I were to use that color and dilute it gently, then it becomes exciting qualities as well. Where I have more concentrated white, it's staying more opaque. And where I have maybe the base of my brush or how the strokes come out, so I have a little bit more diluted color, that's very soft, quite exciting colors, well, change of tones, very gentle, to build up the volumes of for the body, for the skin color. I'll have those little nuances to build up. Okay, now we'll also need a little bit darker gray, so bluey gray. So if I'll go for more ultramarine and more Payne's gray. Okay, so that will be quite a nice tone. So I'm looking for some of those shadows. And again, it might be a little bit more diluted color, or it might be, well, I think it will be a combination of both. A little more solid, opaque color. So if I don't add much white, I can still have a very dark color by mixing Payne's gray and ultramarine. But if I want, so that's more of a transparent, I can see more texture here. But if I were to add more white or bluey gray and then increase the darkness, that base of white stops the color being transparent and makes it much more solid. So it will be the same color but different consistency. There we go. So much more flatter. Right, another color we'll need. So those are so reds, violets, going to be part of the background, diluted colors, our cool grays, going to be some of the flat, a little bit more diluted colors, but quite a lot of it will be for the background. Of course, there will be some of it for the body as well. And let's have a look at some of the colors on them of the neck and the tummy. I think the legs will have some of that color, a part of that gray. I've got some lovely reds for the shadow, perhaps the fabric, but maybe just the how the color of the body reflects in the shadow there as well. But yeah, let's have a look at the tummy color and the neck. How do we get those colors together? Now that could be our ochre mixed with violet. So that's something we do a lot, but we haven't done yet today. So if I'll mix it together, okay, maybe too much violet here. So let's get the proportion right. So no white. Okay, I think that's the one. So just a nice balance. It's not quite ochre on its own, but it's with a little bit of that violet. How we can paint the tummy. Okay. And the neck, part of the head. So that's it, really. I think our colors are there. And what we'll do next, we'll have a little plan of our colors on a small scale. So it's almost like our pre-plan of the composition. So on this white piece of paper, I'm going to do a little bit of planning for composition. Now, I do like to start with my transparent colors. Opaque colors could always go on top. Nothing's going to kind of stop them to be opaque, but the transparency, once it's you know, once it's been missed, let's say if we've got some opaque color going, it will be harder to bring some transparency colors. So I'll go any of the combination of my 3 warm colors. So ochre, crimson, violet, any of those ones. I just want to have a quick sketch of it, a quick plan. So, and because it's on a white paper, my colors will look very different to the painting. Right, so first of all, I need to plan that I'm going to have something warm underneath. You know what, I could have just planned it just in colors altogether. Right, hold on a second. Quick reading, this is what I'm thinking for the next stage. Going a bit too far ahead. Let's just do our planning with just a line for a moment. So any of those colors again, but let's plan overall shape where we're going to put some gray. Now it looks like our figure stands with an interior. There's some sort of line, horizontal line, but going on the diagonal, which cuts into that interior. Okay. So our gray is going to go all the way above it and maybe just a little bit below, kind of to support the figure somewhere here. Okay, so we've got almost all of that one's gray. The bottom part stays in the shadow. Okay. And then the center will have a little bit of extra warmth. So what my plan is, just to work with some big colors and planning the colors, I'm going to introduce, and you can watch me, you can follow me through, it's fine. So I'm not going to follow the technique, I'm going to follow the patterns of and shapes. So I'm going to start with a little bit of ochre and violet. I'm going to paint my figure because I haven't got the background as ochre to support myself. So if I were to paint my figure as a big bulk, okay, that's how I want us to think of the figure, as a big bulk of color. Okay, nice, something warm there. I can then introduce my grays, my lighter gray and my darker gray. Actually fancy starting with my darker gray. So Payne's gray. I'm using a very big brush because I want to think of big shapes. This is my rough planning design. Okay, so any of those colors, a bit more opaque than transparent. Okay, let's fill all of that space from that diagonal of the interior. All of that one's going to be coming together. Okay. I'm filling up my paper here. Okay, just getting rid of all the whites. Some of that gray is going to be coming up kind of around the figure. Got that bit more diagonal for it. But that's not a big deal at the moment. I want you kind of to start thinking of the shapes of it. And the rest is going to be pale gray. Okay, and again, I'm going to make it quite solid. Not transparent at all. We'll play with all those qualities later. And I'm just going to cover it, paint it flat. Okay, if I'm catching up some black and it smudges, I can just get over those areas to keep them a bit more flat. So the figure getting slightly lost. All we have left from the figure is a bit of some warmth. Okay. I'm even getting lost that initial rectangle of the of my ochre. So once I know I have something warm in the middle, something dark surrounding it, something lighter gray in the middle, it gives me that simplicity to get around. Okay. All I'll have afterwards is start defining the details, the direction of them, maybe white, the extra shadows for the legs, so everything up to kind of almost to the waist stays darker, identifying more of a line, perfecting the line of the drawing for the neck, for the shoulders, for the arm, for the head. Okay, but working with the big strokes simplifies everything for us. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to add a little bit of white, and I'm going to use it a bit more solid, so I don't want it to get lost. And I'll find that lovely diagonal for the white, which will be crucial for us on the bigger format to find that beautiful silhouette of the shoulders. But if we start with a big chunk of it almost coming through, yeah, or we can even just paint it over, okay, and then we can lift the color now, and because I've got a white background, it will lift to white, but on actual painting we'll have that ochre coming through. That's what we'll be doing it for. So here is my white here. Again, it's very crude in shapes at the moment. You can just tweak a bit of spaces there, okay. And then I can pick up a smaller brush to play with some of the darks of the head. Maybe just play with a little bit of the line. So I'm going to go for some Payne's gray, maybe diluted. And look for a few pointers. Now, so far, I'm not looking much at the proportions. I'm just looking at just playfulness and interaction of tones and shapes. So first of all, I'm interested into the shape of the head, kind of as a maybe volume of it. So the hair is looking up. Something's going on there. A direction of the neck. Okay. Again, it's probably too or way too crude and too big, and you know, but just looking for that overall part of the head is right in the shadow of everything. But if I were just to place it all together as a volume, okay, a bit more black. Also doing a small piece instead of starting a large scale straight away gives us an opportunity to relax, to have a think of what we're actually doing, to analyze the image. Gives us another option to kind of work on a larger scale a little bit easier as well. Okay. So we'll have some ways building up. We've got hip bones, got the way the legs come together. Okay. Crotch. Okay, maybe where the neck's going to be. So it's a little bit of a sketch afterwards. The white is going to get lost within the shadows. There are loads of little nuances. So far, I don't want you to think about them. But the head is there. Now the proportions of my head is totally wrong to the rest of the body. I'm more thinking about those interactions of colors. So let's bring some of that lighter gray now on the chest. Okay, so that's the same gray. So that's when we'll start working on a larger scale, we can just keep working and reworking things by bringing those flat colors we worked on our background. Part on the tummy here, and the bottom area where we've got the legs, the lower part of the figure will have extra depths there. So she's much more settled now. I think I can see where the head's gone wrong. Need to go a bit further back. So resources are to work back and keep looking at what we have in front of us and keep sketching. And it could be doing any sketch. It doesn't have to be the same lady. It could be any live drawing, bringing out one background, interacting with another. And then all the rest we'll have is to play with highlights. So if I were to bring my white back, where the white is going to be against the light highlights of the body, of the neck, of the face, of the collarbone, of the shoulder, of the breasts. Okay. So all the rest will be nuances and playfulness of the work with the textures. Tummy, nice. Tummy here. Can decide on the lines what's happening with how she's standing, what we can see, and what's hidden behind from our imagination. Yeah. what's our imagination and what is actually on the paper. Yeah, just shrink the volume of the head here. And that's the part of the work today, is to keep sketching, to keep sort of making it kind of keep working and working and working into that freshness, or that painting, is to kind of almost step back and almost kind of start from scratch and do it again, because that freshness will need to come in by having those big forms. Okay, so the head is over here. Head is, the hair looks ever so funky there. We'll talk about those details a little bit more when we get to a larger scale. So like with Still Life last week, it's going to be just glowing, transparent, moving, fleeting, the moment type of work. And where we'll accent some of the lines, where some of that line will disappear. Where the form is going to be repeating or getting lost. Okay. So if we think about overall, right, it's just reflecting a bit here as well. If we're thinking about overall warmth in the center, big block of light gray, big block of dark gray surrounding it all, we're on the right track. Okay. So if I'll leave this one here as our little practice piece. What I wanted to do with using this surface, oh, it's all mucky, my hand's all mucky as well, is to plan how our colors will interact. Okay. So for example, when I start applying my paint, I want to apply some oil and just see how that interacts. If I'll start not just applying the solidness of the paint straight away, I want it to flow a bit more, I want it to be much more oily and smooth. So if here we looked a bit more about composition and shapes as part of our form, here I want to just apply some oil and explore the technique of oil paint application. So I'm just applying my oils to the top surface. Actually, maybe all of it, It's only a small piece here as well. Okay, so it's all nice and soft. And that's when I want to use those lovely colors, those lovely warm colors, ochre and crimson without any white. And I want to see some of that. Actually, I haven't got much of that, sorry. I've got crimson and violet. That's the one I was looking for, sorry. crimson and violet. So I can see some of that color in the top corner, kind of coming towards the bottom. And then in the middle of the painting where we can see those beautiful reds. So that's mainly that violety, crimson's nice and diluted and runny. Okay. Maybe a little bit more there, maybe not. Now don't be scared applying them, because we can lift some of them off very easily when we start playing with the figure. We can even sketch the figure, yeah? So it's those type of surfaces we can work with very easily and freshly. But so far we've got it nice and soft and runny. I want to bring some more ochre and violet on their own as well. Want that tummy and neck color we found earlier. And I just want to place it in a few areas. Even if I were to keep some of it or not to keep some of it. So I want to have some of that runniness. So if my ochre background is going to be one of my lightest, except obviously the fresh whites, I want to have some interaction of cool colors with the runny paints. Maybe somewhere here for the legs as well. Now you could say, right, Julia, there's quite a lot of things going on. How on earth do we get the figure out of it? How do I get precise? How do I get thinking? How do I, without this last moment effects? Yes, there is a lot of skill and there is a lot of observations going on. So that's why I picked up the probably simpler figure for us to work with. But if you were to pick up a small brush now, a very small firm brush, we can sketch with it as if you were to sketching with a pencil or charcoal. And that's when we can remove some of the color. So what I'll do, I'll just use a stroke and wipe my brush on a tissue. So for example, I can find, okay, if it doesn't quite lifts off, you can always just use a bit of tips. So I can identify maybe the head, maybe the neck. This is my more of a playful, practical way to help us to get the figure in the right place. Okay, so get the proportions of it. Because if I'll start introducing black, I can, but it's almost like we're looking for the final lines when we need to have some sort of support. Now the artist probably sketched it much quicker without this, but to help us out, I think that might be a good solution. Right, so if we've got almost like an egg shape, torso, just to give us again the proportions of it. The face is only going to be small. The hairstyle is very big, but the actual face is only small, where that jawline is going to be. So it's always, we can talk through things, give yourself that kind of help and identification of shapes. Okay, where the hips going to be, what the diagonal of the hips is going to be, what the diagonal of the shoulders is going to be. Maybe the hips is going to be one, where the shoulder is going to be the other one. So that's exploration of lines, that's conversation between our mind and our brush. Okay. Where the hips ridge is going to be, because we'll know when to build up a tummy afterwards. So I know I've got a bit of a blob here, but in a way I'm still sketching with it. If you want to help yourself with a little bit of white, like white ochre. Again, I'm just trying to find more practical solutions for us. To say, okay, well, that's where maybe part of the neck is going to be, where the face is going to stop. So you've got more of a line. Okay, things are quite nice and runny. Where one line for the shoulders are going to be, where the line for the breast's going to be. It's more helpful, but we don't really want to have that white line ideally. It might be visually clear for you what I'm doing. Okay, again, where the tummy is. Kind of looking for those highlights of the legs. Okay. Okay, let's help ourselves with a little bit of black to balance out the medium tones. Okay, that might tell me where middle of the neck might be. Maybe how the whole head, maybe that face gone too far, maybe that, I think I keep putting my hairstyle a bit too far. Okay, trim it off. Okay. Nice and soft, nice and runny. Directing all the colors together there. Okay. Using the cloth, using the fingers, using whatever the tools we might have in front of us to get those shapes, correct position, just trying to find helpful diagonals for us to understand what that form is going to be. Okay, maybe where the triangle for the neck is going to be. The muscle then will come in here, but for now it's all good. So again, let's do a bit more extra darkness now. So once I can see that form a bit better, it's easier to do then all the rest. So wiping and losing it and finding it, and I want you to have that experience. I want you to have that playfulness of the technique. And I want you to think, oh, she needs to be very beautiful and pretty and everything needs to be so, yeah, I prefer it to be much more, what did we paint today? What is it? Is that lovely, gorgeous, abstract shape? Then the final details. Now I think I'm a bit more happier now with proportions, positioning of overall shapes. Head is a total mess, but I can see kind of within my stroke, it makes sense to me what's going to be happening afterwards. So that's when we can start introducing our darker grays and lighter grays. So ultramarine and Payne's gray with a little bit of bluey gray. And that's when I can start looking, okay, I can see where my plan is for the tummy. Can I be careful now and find out that hip line and where the leg's gonna go? Okay. And the rest could almost disappear there. If I wanted to have more playful afterwards, make the gray run, all of that beautiful texture there. Can I find the silhouette for the breast here? Okay, although the breast will have some solid light gray on it, so it didn't matter if I found one now or not. That silhouette. Quite like some of that gray running somewhere here. Anywhere else that gray is going to be on the other side. Okay, picked up a bit more black by accident. We've got some lovely gray, dark gray on the hips. And, you know, just doing those strokes of color, they immediately kind of fall into place. For our figure. Okay, it's reflecting for you here. Let me do that. Okay. Higher. Where that arm is. So I'm almost like sketching now. Okay. So now I can't quite see what's going on until I put it down. Blob. I'll do it like that. It'll look better. Okay. Let's find some lighter gray. Bluey gray with some white. And let's help ourselves again the same way. Painting around the arm. Right, let me just make it a tiny bit thicker. Otherwise the paint will become immediately mixed with the background, so a thicker paint is better. So I'm going to ignore the white sections on the painting. I'm just going to go for lighter gray first. Find maybe that silhouette of the shoulder. Paint that part of the chest. If you can still see, well, ideally on the larger scale, it will be easier for us to work with it. But we just see the front, kind of almost finding the flatter sections of the body where the light will settle. So not pretty, but find how the paint interacts. So here we just looked at composition. Here I would just want to see how the paint interacts, how you can freely almost like allow yourself to sketch further, maybe not on this scale, but kind of, okay, maybe I'll find the proportions here, maybe I'll find the height, maybe I'll find the width, maybe. At the same time, we're interacting our runny paints and flatter, thicker strokes. On a larger scale, we combine it all, we'll take our time to do it a bit more precisely. Okay, where's my line here? So again, don't if you're painting alongside of me, don't try to kind of make it perfect. This is a wrong type of exercise. It's an exercise to see the flexibility of the media. Okay, arm. So the arm is found part of the background. Thighs were found part of the background. That's kind of key directions and key shapes. Okay, so if the neck was somewhere there. She's got some sort of Victorian hairdo, which is quite funky. Or maybe she's a bather. She just put all her hair up. So let's diagonal that chin. Make it too crude. So when we do end up with the extra darker line, which is like the final bit, yeah, everything's fallen into place. Those suggestions. Of the body. Then I can tweak the nuances of smaller changes. So if I'm just playing with, for example, if I'm working on the breast areas, light left by the runny color underneath, flatter chest overall from the gray, little highlights on the top area of the breast, again, just to show that the volume, part of the similar highlights on the shoulder. This will tell me if that line's gone too wide or where that delicacy of the arm is going to be. And then if I were to bring some white, where the white is going to support again the shape of the silhouette of the neck, the far distant shoulder. If you can't see it exactly, we're just placing that block of light. My small brush is struggling to apply the color, but it's quite a small size to work in that larger brush scale, where that white is going at the back. Okay, it's lifting all my black color. So maybe order of my black line will be different. Maybe I'll have to find all the whites before I do my final black lines. Again, that gives me an opportunity to reevaluate my order of colors, applications. We're almost seeing the back of her head, and the ear is right at the front for the head as well. So fully, no, almost fully turned away from us. And that light is just incredibly powerful to smudge the definition of the face. Okay, in that direction, I love that direction of bold white. Again, something we can play with much more fresher rather than I just fiddled with a brush too much. I'm just trying to find smaller nuances for it, but so we'll need to take part of that shoulder and explore it. Okay. I'm much happier with that now. Again, the quality of the playfulness of the runny paint, that's where I'm even more happier with. I can use also some black. Probably gonna use Payne's Gray and a dab of crimson, and that could be my offsetting silhouette of dark. We've got some sort of reflective chair. Maybe she's leaning on the chair, or part of the bathing interior. Those lovely strokes of Payne's Gray and red. Again, this would be part of the shadows of the legs. Some more intensive in the corner here, the bottom corner. Okay, maybe going a little bit high under the armpit. Okay, let's make my brush cleaner here. Pick up a smaller brush. Smaller pair. Dark gray. Offsets the arm. What we can lift, what we can. Okay, mucky brush. I hope you don't feel too frustrated with the surface to play with. And also realize some of you might not have the background color for it. So just to kind of watch and see what's how the paint just generally reacts. behaves. I'm just introducing a little bit of color here and there if I've lost it. Yeah, it just becomes a bit more exciting. Small brush for those things here. Oh, sorry, I just glanced everything is reflecting again on the bottom here. Okay, so slowly getting there. Second I turn it like that, the head looks too big. But I think it's a bit of a proportion of my board to the screen. Okay, extra long neck. Okay, can't find the right angle for it now. Now my other thought before we start doing a big piece, if it's any help for you and you want to try it again, for example, is use a charcoal and maybe do a sketch of proportions of the figure to give yourself that extra guidelines. And then with the oil, you can lift some of the charcoal. So maybe perhaps in the future, I could try something like that, a similar technique, maybe in a different class. But let's get going with our paint application now. So first of all, remember, I just applied some oil to the painting to make it all nice and soft, almost like as if we were working wet on wet in watercolors. Now I have got a bit of color on my brush, which doesn't matter because we'll be adding some color afterwards. Right, I need more oil. Now I prefer applying it with a brush rather than pouring it. Now first of all, I have an angle to the board, and also I just know I'm not going to miss anything, and kind of I'm more in control of how much oil is landing. Sometimes spraying or pouring might be a bit too much, but for certain things it's really nice to have that extra running strokes. That might be very exciting. Depends what we're doing. Right, so once we've done that, we can go for crimson and violet together. And we found some spots of that lovely red. I'll just put it more somewhere here. Almost like it goes in a nice diagonal. And somewhere where that shadow of the figure is going to be. Like that interaction of warmth against the cool colors later on will be really good. I might put the shadow a bit more further on the left if I haven't decided exactly where it's going to be. I think it's might be the hips might be a bit more this way. Okay. Let's bring a little bit more ochre and violet together. Again, a bit more transparent. Again, if I were to put it more for the tummy area, maybe legs, so planning it. Again, maybe too wide. Maybe I can help myself with the direction of the shoulders, direction of the breasts, direction of the hips. Where the leg's gonna come. If that's the outer shoulder, arm is coming down. So in a way, I am helping myself to find that line. Okay, maybe the collarbone will go a little bit lower. Where that line for the neck is going to be. If you end up just having a torso and the head will disappear out of your paper, will be cropped. That's quite a common pick for the live drawing as well, just a torso. You can decide if those lines need moving. Quite like that. Not a perfect straight line going along the side. Okay. So I'll be using my cloth now just to help myself to maybe sketch a little, find the corners of the shoulders. Just to help ourselves before we start putting and kind of get everything lost within our background grays. Or we can just work into everything back. This is again just to give us a sub placements, because we now have got a slightly different scale and it's easier to get lost into that scale. Okay, so while we've got paler colors before we've gone too far. Okay. This might be just a little bit helpful to get some looking done. So maybe we've got the right balance of kind of direction of the body. Can we fit the whole body if you decide, or if you crop in part of the head? I like that tummy, she's kind of leaning back, the tummy almost comes out. So it's finding that lovely form around it. Where the leg's going to have that lovely warmth. So loads of things coming together, that texture of the paint and the proportion of the body. Loads and loads of things coming together. You will probably find your own way of doing it. So if what I'm doing is a help, that's great. If you find your way of maybe even finding some of the, the highlights on the legs now, finding the highlights on the tummy now, because once the gray is applied, we know where to stop perhaps with it. If the shadows keep going over. Okay. Right, I had a nice play. Oh, well, do I need to put anything else for the background? Yeah, maybe a bit of oak and violet somewhere here. Maybe somewhere around the head as well. So when I'll start bringing the darks, I've got some extra light. Kind of part of that ochre will be interacting with the greys shortly. Because of the runniness of the paints today, I've used quite a lot of kitchen towel to help me kind of to keep my brushes tidy. Right, let's start with our darker gray. So Payne's gray, ultramarine, dab of bluey gray. Okay, so let's find that lovely diagonal. Let's think of overall composition now. Okay. Right, so we have a nice chunk of a line diagonal here, and then it's maybe reduces tiny bit lower, comes down here. So let's play with that darkness. Let's come close to the body. Okay. Let's follow part of the silhouette here. You can see some much more solid darks there as well. Maybe we could have done the darks right at the end like we did earlier. So just do all the grays. Let's do all the similar grays so we're not changing the darkness on our brush. Okay, so we've got some of the darkness. And again, some of that interaction of the paint is very, very exciting. Okay, now I know where roughly the tummy is, so part of that gray stroke. And if I'm in the wrong place, I can always move it and always kind of bear it in mind where I've placed it now, and maybe it's all need to be adjusted. Okay, I've got the darkness for the thighs here. There will be some extra light, and then there will be some extra darkness as well. Just help myself with thinking of the darkness and perhaps part of that drawing. Okay, that's too runny paint, but that's okay. Again, the quality of the darker strokes, transparent strokes, quality of the opaque strokes. Is very, very exciting here. Okay, so that tells me that maybe that leg is, maybe that angle of the legs need to come here a bit more. Maybe this light. Okay, if I were to put some oil or tubes on my tissue, I can sketch that angle of the legs. I can work for that light of the lower tummy. Okay. I can correct my kind of add. Quite like some of that extra violet and red at the base. You will have your own way of doing it, because whatever you smudge, you might need to pay attention to the other areas, but hopefully you just have an understanding of that freedom of the color paint interaction with different surfaces, with different form. Okay. So tummy, quite a low shape for the tummy. There's quite a lot of nice three-dimensional, very simplified, but loads of three-dimensional thinking, how the colors interact. Feels like I want to do a bit of here, a bit more there, but I haven't done the top, so I need to stop before starting fixing everything or kind of getting it to the perfection. Okay. Right, let's go back with our gray. Little part of the head. Well, I'm on a dark gray. I'm gonna go for black here as well. Okay, the part of that arm is going to have some of that black. For now, I'll just keep it there. I think that black and gray together on the lower part of the body is getting slowly there. Right, so that's all broken down, but I've got my darks, oh, my black for the head now as well, while I've done the blacks. Let's do it there for now. Right, stepping away from your work is also very important. So we can see it better. Now I'm going to go for some lighter grays now. So pale bluey gray with some extra white. That tells me a few things will need to be worked into. Okay, so let's get that gray. Okay. my paint doesn't settle evenly because there's quite a lot of oil and start giving me some streaks, I can kind of use a slightly different direction, maybe diagonal direction, and then do a final stroke vertical. I've got some exciting edges, but then the paint have settled in. Okay, coming close to the head, just leaving a little bit of extra space for it here and there. I think my board is a bit more stretched out. So I might end up with two elongated figures, so I need to amend. I think my format of the board is slightly longer than my sketches. It's okay. So notices. Right, so I'm doing now the other side. Painting over these lovely browns, letting them settle as they will. Okay. Let's set that diagonal of the interior. I think I quite like the top part of the painting more, so I think I might move my piece slightly higher. I think that's what I'll do. I'll just adjust, bring the lower part of the body slightly higher. I think that's what I'll have to do. I've got a thigh which has a bit more paler gray light. Okay, and some of these areas will have to come up as well. So moving things around according to your work. Okay, and I might just have more of the legs or more of the interior. Might be some extra light of some sort, maybe it will disappear, we'll see. Otherwise the legs will be unsupported on their own. Now it becomes much more fun to work with. Right, I need slightly more darknesses here. More exciting strokes. Okay. So once we can identify and see the big shapes of our grays, dark ones and light ones, that helps us to see the whole image in one. I'm just trying to get some bit more paler corner here. It allows us to kind of combine it as the figure silhouette. It can allow us to combine the technique here together as well. So things will start placing together. What I haven't done the body. So I have the same lighter gray. I'm just really liking some of that beautiful wash of the paint here. So let's bring the chest. Okay, the shoulder will have a little bit of light in it. The breast is a bit more turned away the further away one. Okay, so what we'll see here is more of that gray developing, kind of stretching out and then blending into. Okay, I'm just trying to clean my brush. Blending into this lighter ochre. So if I wanted to blend it, maybe using a cleaner brush, maybe diluting the paint. I think diluting the paint will be a bit better for me. So I want the chest to be a bit more flat. Maybe I'll use a different size brush, so flatten color. Okay, that shoulder just coming towards us. Start being part of the background as well. So again, I work with a smaller brush, so I'm not going to lose part of that line here. Quite like that red though. I think I might preserve it for me. But the flat gray is remaining here. That's part of the collarbone. You can subdivide shapes there. You can also put a little bit of light for the chin. Okay, I think the breast will come a little bit lower. Right, and let's stop at that for the moment. So big shapes of light, big shapes of dark. Next stage will be to get some bold whites as well. Okay, right, let's introduce some white. So let's have a clean brush, maybe a medium-sized brush, but something you can apply the fresh thick strokes with. I'm going to prepare my white as well. It's a little bit thick as it comes from the tube. So I'm going to pre-mix it with some oil. So it's dilutes it. It's still big chunks, but it's much more flexible for the application. A nice soft paste. Okay. Maybe let's start with the right hand side. Let's find that diagonal. So we've got one diagonal there, got another diagonal coming this way. Now we have part of the shoulder. Right, let me see if I can have another brush here. Part of the shoulder which has a bit of light. So I might just almost sketch the shoulder, leaving the kind of gray light tone. The background light is probably a reflection of the window. This white on the body, it's the shoulder which turned away from us. Okay, and it goes behind the chest. The arm is kind of folded in a way, so it's all quite spontaneously placed with color. I'll make it a little bit more fresher shortly. And then we have one of the breasts, which we can see mainly a highlight of. And I can immediately almost put a little highlight on another breast. Can put a little bit highlight on the collarbone so I can know what I'm working with in highlights. Can put a bit more of a highlight on the shoulder and how it's moving into the arm and the chest. Kind of two distinctive strokes, directions. Okay. Some of it looks too precise. A little smudge will do them good. Right, back to my white. Got carried away. Okay, I think maybe my white's gone a little bit too high into the neck. Let's have a look if I'll get it out from the back. I'll do the face and maybe the head a bit more, and then decide if I'll keep it as it is or maybe shrink the right hand side white. Okay, that light is spreading now. So I want my final strokes for the light to be more spontaneous. So, right, so if they finish in quite freely, that's better. Maybe my pale gray could touch up. That's better. So if it's gone too far up, too close to the face, you can just shrink it now. And even shrink part of that light so it looks like a studio light now. Yeah. Okay. Right, let's work a little bit with maybe darker line. And then touch up the nuances and maybe play with a little bit of the head there. Right, so small brush, bit of Payne's Grey and Crimson. Let's look part of the head. The fridge where the oval of the face is going to be. Where the black is going to lead at the neck. Follow your instinct and follow if you feel that it's right to stop or to carry on the line a bit more wider, narrower, darker, lighter. Then on the screen, then on the artist work. I want to keep it a bit more lower, that's better. So almost using the colors as a rubber. Okay, quite like that one. Okay, I think the head Just need to have a middle tones, a bit more middle tones volume, so the head doesn't look too small. I don't want to overwork it. So it might have some more darker silhouette on the some of that line. Okay. I also don't want that line, looks like that line is following all the way through everything. I want it to be lost and found as well. So maybe some brown will need to come in. Maybe even a bit of extra light to change that angle. Okay, that's a bit more calmer. And then that the shadow for the neck. And the collarbones. And I'll just soften some of this. Much easier to work from life and just be free sketching it rather than trying to copy, kind of work with a bit more precise work of an artist. But it's all good practice for us as a wonderful studies. Okay. Tweaking that head design. Tweaking the shape of the light. Okay, let's work for that darker line elsewhere. Okay, Tommy is not here. Some of the a little bit darker gray, but go somewhere slightly higher. Okay. That shoulder is, it's more of a connection for the other side of the torso. Softening part of that shoulder. Again, working out the edges of the hips. I think I'm gonna lose the hand there. Which might be part of the fabric, part of the chair, part of whatever shadows. Just want to see the angles of the legs coming together. Working out some of those final light nuances. And also lifting some of the color. So I want to lift some of the color here. And see some of the ochre as part of the skin. Okay, that's quite lifted, still a lot of paint, so let's do this with a tissue. Okay, maybe the corner on the tissue is a better one.
Julia, I'm going to have to go now.
Okay. Okay, let's find a little bit of light under the rib cage and follow this light over. Okay, another corner for my tissue. Lifting some fresh color. It also gives me an idea of perhaps lifting some of that color on the other shoulder. She becomes alive again, not too marbly gray. That's gone too far. Good. Okay, a little bit heavy-handed smudging. Let's tweak it back to where we want to be. So, for example, my white, the shoulder come out a bit too far. Let's tweak that one back. Okay, let's get more of a color for the tummy to stand out on the side. I could have lifted it more, or perhaps even using a bit of white and ochre. I think I've got quite a lot of paint here, so just introducing a bit of white and ochre give me immediate contrast. Okay. Belly button. Okay, clean brush. I want to see that darker ochre of the background. Oak and violet if I wanted that shadow here. Okay, let's do a flat highlight on the tummy first. Get some paler gray to show the side of it. The belly button. Okay. That's better. Right, I need to carry on part of my gray on the arm. Oh, she's got some fabric on it. I think I'll carry it on a little more. And then it's disappears. Now it's much more natural there. And I think I need another highlight, perhaps coming close towards the knee. Because there is some movement there as well. Okay, that's too bold and bright. Let's soften that. Just a bit of hint of a color. Okay, any highlights on the chin? Bit of white. And some lovely warmth of background color within the face as well. So we see some warmth. Right, let's get a lighter area opened up. This is some extra light on the neck. It's come out a little bit too dark. And a bit too precise. That's better. Now this one just a little flat in color. A little bit of ultramarine. Showing almost that jawline and the area behind the ear. I'm just going to come over with the gray to hide some of the extra light I brought in. I just want a little bit of darkness somewhere there as I'll start smudging it. Okay, the face needs to go a tiny bit more further out. The hair is folding. Okay, I've lost that light a little bit again, but it's a bit more. Yeah, I think the head's got a bit too big. Just blend it with the background and it's so suggestiveness of the process and playful of the process keeps me excited and keeps me going, and I could be playing here for a bit longer till I perfect my smudges to get, that's better, till I start actually kind of more relaxedly, put my strokes rather than being too precise. Because when we do our live drawing sketches, if we're practicing our observational drawings, we do very quick studies and kind of move on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, as it progresses. So in a way, that's if we work quicker, it's becomes more natural and less precious. But I wanted us to play with them, with the colors, kind of how the paints will work. I wanted us to have that feel of the freedom of the painting. So I hope you had fun and still having fun, and will continue having fun as you will be painting this. So thank you very much for today. I'm going to stop at that. And I want to see some of your sketches, no matter what stage they are. So thank you very much.